Members, this is the appointed time, and we have a quorum. So, today we receive a policy briefing by the Environment and Ecology Bureau. Let me invite the representatives of the government to come in first.
咁喺政府代表入緊嚟嘅時，
Whilst they are coming into the room, I want to explain to members that the purpose of the policy briefing is to allow members a better understanding of the policy directions of the Environment Ecology Bureau (Environment), so that members may also express their views to the Bureau during the policy formulation process. Let me welcome the administration to our meeting. I'll wait for the secretary to be seated, and then I will invite the secretary to brief members with the aid of a PowerPoint. Secretary will speak for 10 minutes. I'll give the floor to him now. Chair, members, good afternoon. Once again, I'd like to congratulate members for being returned as members of this term. We have two branches. One is environment, the other is food under our bureau, and we are responsible for formulating, coordinating work covering climate change, environmental protection, nature conservation, green transport, energy improvement of environmental hygiene, food safety, stable supply, advancing development of food industry, promoting fisheries and agriculture, sustainable development, and pet-friendly initiatives. Now, the work of the environmental branch is to formulate comprehensive environmental protection policies so as to achieve carbon neutrality and promote Hong Kong as a demonstration base for green technology. The vision is to strive to transform Hong Kong into a low-carbon, green and livable city whilst advancing towards high-quality and sustainable development. Now, we have seen continuous improvement in terms of air quality since the return of Hong Kong to China, and we have also improved the water quality and odor along Victoria Harbour, and we have also set up the new country park, the Robin's Nest, and also built the largest coastal park in North Lantau, and we also chose the Mears Bay is also chosen as one of the most beautiful bays in our country. Now, in terms of waste disposal, we have reversed the trend, and now the MSW disposal rate has come down. And we're also concerned about carbon emission. Per capita greenhouse gas emission have fallen to about just 1/4 of the United States. For electric vehicles, we're now 4 times the number than that in 2021. That's a 2-time increase. We are also preparing for the legislation on recycling of retired EV batteries, and we'll also grasp some of the opportunities to draw up a hydrogen energy development strategy. Now, the recommendation on the 15th five-year plan proposes that our country should take forward green transformation comprehensively and take forward the Beautiful China initiative. Now, we need to implement the concept of the lush mountain and lucid water being our valuable assets. We also need to enhance coordination among human and the natural environment and continue to cut carbon emission so as to build a good impetus on protecting the environment. And we'll continue to face the common challenges and strive for reaching the goals. And we will also keep a united front with the community so as to build a better Hong Kong. Next, I will give the floor to the Permanent Secretary, Ms. Permanent Secretary for Environment and Ecology, Ms. Polly Kwok, to share with you our work of the Environment Branch. And then we welcome views from the floor. Chair, members, we strive to achieve carbon neutrality and promote Hong Kong as a base of green technology so as to transform Hong Kong into a low-carbon, green, livable city. I'm going to brief members on the work of the Environment Branch of the EEB and our future work directions. Now, our work includes overseeing the work of the EPD and the Hong Kong Observatory, as well as partial functions of 3 government departments, including the Country Parks, Marine Parks, Nature Conservation of the AFCD, Sewage Services of the Drainage Services Department, and Electricity and Energy Efficiency work of the EMSD. Key initiatives and latest progress. First, to align with the country's dual carbon targets, we proactively implement the carbon emission vision, that is to reduce carbon emissions by half before 2035 and achieve carbon neutrality before 2050. Through our efforts, our total greenhouse gas emissions peaked in 2014 and have since shown a downward trend. Comparing to 2020, by 2024, emissions had decreased by 27% comparing to the peak in 2014. Per capita greenhouse gas emissions have also fallen to just 1/4 of the United States and 60% of the EU. Next, promoting waste reduction, recycling, and resource circulation. We have successfully reversed the upward trend in the long term in waste disposal quantities. The average daily disposal of MSW decreased from 11,000 tons per day to just 10,501 tons per day, down by 7.5%, and at the same time the recovery rate increased from 28% in 2021 to 34% in 2024. iPark 1, that's the modern facility, commenced the first phase of trial operation in December last year. This marks a new phase as we convert MSW into energy and reduce reliance on landfills. Improving air quality. Now, we've continued to see improvements in air quality in Hong Kong. Between 2004 and 2025, the concentrations of major air pollutants in Hong Kong in ambient air have decreased by 45% to 88%, and that's the lowest since the return to China, and that's 40% to 90% drop. Ensuring excellent water quality. The overall compliance rate of water quality objectives consistently reached 90% or above. In November, the 15th National Games Triathlon competition was successfully held at the harbourfront of Central and Wan Chai in Victoria Harbour. It shows our efforts in water quality improvement and management. Next, nature conservation. Last year, we updated the biodiversity strategy and action plan, which outlines the strategic direction and priority actions for Hong Kong over the next 10 years to observe biodiversity and promote sustainable development. Monitoring electricity market and electrical safety. The government has signed a scheme of control agreements with the 2 power companies, which sets out the liabilities and the rights, and the government will conduct regular reviews for the power companies, including the 5-year development plan, annual tariff review, and the annual auditing review. Having negotiated with the 2 power companies, they have announced that starting from the 1st of January 2026, they would reduce the average net tariff. Future work focus. I will briefly go through the work focus of the environmental branch. Moving towards carbon neutrality, we're progressively enhancing our carbon management efforts, and we're extending the carbon audit practice from major government buildings to major infrastructure. We also work with the Development Bureau in drawing up guidelines. In the first half of this year, we're going to promulgate the mechanisms and guidelines for compliance by government departments so that when they plan for the new development areas, they can incorporate the relevant initiatives. Next, promoting the development of the new energy industry. We are now discussing with the Guangdong provincial government to enable a local enterprise, one of the world's major SAF suppliers, to develop its business in the GBA. We'll also promote the construction of SAF blending facility to meet the SAF consumption ratio of 1 to 2% for flights departing from the Hong Kong International Airport by 2030. On promotion of hydrogen development, the government announced a strategy of hydrogen development in Hong Kong in 2024. It's a top-level design. It provides a stable environment for the steady development of hydrogen energy in Hong Kong. It will boost competitiveness as well as create new quality productive forces. There are 32 hydrogen energy trial projects which are underway or under preparation. The EMSD will also consult the sector on the detailed framework for green hydrogen and low carbon hydrogen certification so as to build a certification that connects to the mainland and the world, helping Hong Kong develop a demonstration base for green and low carbon hydrogen technologies. Green technology development. The government will continue to leverage on the Green Tech Fund to provide support to local green technology developments. 2 companies are expected to set up production lines at Eco Park in Tuen Mun in the middle of this year to upcycle local waste materials into core materials for electricity-free cooling products and acoustic metamaterial products respectively to promote the development of Hong Kong's green industry. Energy saving and green buildings. The amended Buildings Energy Efficiency Ordinance will be fully implemented in September this year. By 2035, we estimate that 500 million kilowatts hours of electricity will be saved. That's equivalent to 150,000 three-person households' electricity consumption every year. We'll continue to monitor the situation to encourage developers to build district cooling systems. We will roll out an incentive scheme covering GFA concessions and other planning arrangements for connection to the smaller scale district cooling systems. Net zero electricity generation. With the clean energy transmission system completed in 2026, we may import additional zero carbon energy. The government is also actively making plans for receiving and processing zero carbon electricity transmitted to Hong Kong from other regions so as to enhance the capacity of supplying zero carbon energy to Hong Kong, and that the zero carbon energy's share in the local fuel mix can be raised to about 60 to 70% by 2035. Green transport. In the past few years, the charging network has continued to expand. It's now the number of chargers is now 3 times that in 2021. In July last year, the government also rolled out a $300 million subsidy scheme so as to install 3,000 fast chargers in the private sector, providing support to additional 160,000 electric vehicles. We'll continue to expand the infrastructure using fast charger as the core of the network. The number of fast chargers will be increased to 4,000 by 2030 and then 5,000 by 2035, which is expected to support around 500,000 electric vehicles. In 2021, the government promulgated the Hong Kong Roadmap on popularization of electric vehicles. It also set a goal on achieving zero vehicular emission by 2050. We will continue to update this roadmap to provide clear development directions, and we'll duly report to the panel. Moving towards zero landfill. To achieve zero landfill and promote waste reduction at source, we continue to work on 4 directions: strengthening public education, enhancing recycling network, strengthening collaboration with industries, and utilizing market forces to develop environmental infrastructure. Within this year, the PRS producer responsibility schemes on retired EV batteries and on plastic beverage containers and beverage cartons will be submitted to the LegCo for consultation. In the first half of this year, we already saw the recycling facility for retired EV batteries, and they are now a trial is being conducted. We also have a modern water pulping facility which will help promote the recycling economy. The IPARC 2 will also be submitted to LegCo for funding approval. Jointly developing GBA into a beautiful Bay Area. The Hong Kong's Mears Bay has been selected an outstanding example of beautiful bays of our country. We will continue to make efforts to bring port shelter included in the list of beautiful bays. Apart from BSAP, which has been implemented and updated, we'll continue to take forward nature conservation at the Sanpo-Shu Wetland Conservation Park. The first phase is expected to commence as early as 2026-27 for completion by 2031. We're going to implement the Four Peaks Tourism Project and continue to develop other tourist itineraries and products nearby. Promoting green cooperation under the Belt and Road Initiative. To promote the country's initiative to promote green cooperation in the Belt and Road Initiative, we will work with our counterparts and build a cooperation platform in Hong Kong. We will also set up a Belt and Road Sustainable Green Development Training Center so as to collaborate with the international community and train personnel in environmental protection. On broadening AI and big data applications, we'll continue to leverage on AI and big data to help tackle enforcement hurdles and operational challenges so that with greater efficiency we will better serve the public. For example, the EPD already established the Hong Kong Environmental Database, which can help achieve efficient environmental planning in the northern metropolis. That's all from me.
Thank you, Ms. Kwok. I would now open the floor for a Q&A session. Let me remind members this, however. This session is going to end at 4. We have in total 90 members, including myself, asking questions, so I will assign a 4-minute time limit. Mr. Chong Ho Feng. Secretary, in November last year, the 2 power companies announced the latest electricity tariffs. For CLP, they have 2.6% decrease in electricity tariffs. For the Hong Kong Electric, they have seen a decrease of 2.6%. But that is because there's a decrease in the power costs. In fact, for CLP, it's 3.3%. For Hong Kong Electric, it's 4.1%. I believe the 2 power companies will invest more heavily in equipment, manpower, and technology to enhance resilience against adverse weather conditions. In future, electricity tariffs should increase, but citizens' income has not increased. They face a challenge in the face of increasing living costs. In the long term, we should think about how to decrease electricity costs. The government has been purchasing electricity from the mainland. How does it compare in terms of costs compared with local manufacturing of electricity? In the long term, can we purchase electricity in the mainland to lower costs? The government has been developing in the northern part of Hong Kong. We should see less clients or less usage of Hong Kong Electric. We were planning to have this Central Waters Artificial Island project, but now it's not happening. So there will be significant difference in electricity usage between Hong Kong Island and Kowloon and new territories. Would you consider consolidating the 2 power companies? Thank you. Secretary, you have about 2 minutes to answer this question, Secretary. Thank you. Well, it is a commercial market, but in general, the government's power policy is this. We need to provide a secure and stable power supply. 2, we need to move towards clean electricity because we're moving towards carbon neutrality, and we need to make sure the electricity tariffs are reasonable. So as Mr. Chong said, we should think about in the long term how we can control increase in electricity tariffs and how we can have affordable alternatives as we move towards carbon neutrality. You asked about whether we have any plans to purchase more electricity in the mainland. We expect in 2035 we will increase our power purchase in the mainland to a ratio of 60 to 70%. This is our plan. And when we import zero carbon electricity from the mainland to Hong Kong, it will not just be used in Kowloon and New Territories, but also in Hong Kong Island. So hopefully we can lower electricity tariffs while we're moving towards carbon neutrality. Thank you. Mr. Chen Siu-hong. Thank you, Chair. I would first like to declare I'm Senior Advisor for CLP. I have 3 questions. On converting waste into energy, the administration plans to construct iPark 2 in Zhangzhou in Tuen Mun. According to the paper, within this year, the government will seek funding approval from the council. But we have already seen the tendering period for iPark 2 extended twice. Will these affect the commissioning date and, by extension, our goal in conversion from waste into energy? We have also read in the paper that there will be an extension of the carbon audit practice to representative government infrastructure. And we have the relevant carbon audits starting in Q1 of 2024 and completed in Q3 of 2025. Will you publish the findings of the carbon audits for the public? My last question is very simple about EV charging network. The administration has been working hard to flesh out the EV charging network through different incentive schemes. For example, the one to install fast chargers. But there's another option that we can just replace EV batteries. I understand that some enterprises provide locally right-wheel taxis that can have their EV batteries replaced. I believe you will give us an update in due course, but I want to ask if your infrastructure plan includes infrastructure relating to replacement of EV batteries. I will ask the director of the EMSC to answer the question on carbon audits. The tendering period for the iPark 2 has been extended twice because we received feedback that the interested parties need more time to construct this facility because it would be a 6,000-ton facility. So we gave them more time for the parties to formulate their bids and proposals. Well, we already had plans to seek funding in the middle of this year originally, so that has not changed. It will not, therefore, delay the work schedule. As for EV charging, you talked about there being an option of replacing EV batteries, and the government keeps an open mind. We want to incorporate any option that will expand the EV charging network. But we do understand the said option may involve more constraints and suitability arrangements. But we do keep an open mind to see which option is best for Hong Kong in the long term. I will now ask the director of the MSC to answer the question on carbon audits. Please be brief. Thank you, Chair. When we do carbon audits or energy audits for government departments and infrastructure in general, we hope to find some room for improving energy efficiency. And we try to identify good practices so that we can share with the private sector. We want to share such figures when we have them ready in relation to decarbonization and going smart. Thank you. Ms. Elizabeth Quat. Thank you, Chair. We are trying to develop innovation and technology in AI, and we have seen there being a problem of insufficient power supply. We need to make sure there is adequate power supply in future for the development of technology in Hong Kong. And compared to Shenzhen, we have our power costs being 10% higher. It impedes our development of supercomputing centers. So I hope in future we can have more of that zero carbon electricity coming to Hong Kong. You talked about within this year we will enhance the transmission system. Can you tell us more about how much in future we can import from the mainland and how much of a decrease we'll see in electricity tariffs? On zero landfill, the government strives to have a zero landfill in 2035. We have many waste to energy facilities in the mainland, and in fact, they have had an oversupply of such facilities. So they are transporting landfill waste for incineration. They have even purchased waste in other places for incineration. So can we work with the mainland to convert our landfill waste into energy to make good use of the resources? Thank you. Secretary. Thank you. On power supply, as I said earlier, one of our 3 targets is to maintain our electricity tariffs at a reasonable level. So we have all along been trying to compress electricity tariffs, and that will be the same in future. We also strive to increase supply of zero carbon electricity from the mainland. You talked about earlier that we have plans in this year to increase supply of zero carbon electricity, and that is indeed the case. In fact, right now in Hong Kong, 1 out of 14 would be zero carbon electricity, and we also have much of that coming from Daya Bay. So in future, we should have more routes of coming to Hong Kong from 25 to 35. We have in our design in Tseung Kwan O a new route that will help us get another 35%, the other 35%, so we'll reach 60 to 70% in future. With more of that zero carbon electricity, this will maintain our electricity tariffs at a relatively low level. I can't talk about the specific figures just yet because that would be pending discussions with the mainland, but in general, we can maintain electricity tariffs at a low level. As for zero landfill, right now there is great demand for incineration capacity in the mainland, so they do have good capacity, so they are also testing converting old landfill waste into energy. But the country has an important principle that we should process waste locally, which is why we are building our own incinerator facilities. once we have enough capacity to process local waste, we will consider then incinerating landfill waste. But right now, we are only looking to construct more waste to energy facilities. As for in the Greater Bay Area, we are looking to recycle materials. We can collaborate on this, but we will not just transport waste to other GBA cities. Thank you.
Mr. Bill Tang. Thank you, Chair. Other members already covered electricity tariff as well as purchasing electricity from the mainland. Now I'd like to delve deeper. Say our goal is to achieve this target by 2035, like the Secretary just now said, for clean energy transmitted to Hong Kong will increase the zero carbon energy in the mix to 60 to 70%. And that means inevitably in the local fuel mix, there will be a lower share coming from the natural gas generation units. So this is inevitable. So does it mean that the basic tariffs will see a decline? Now, for the sake of it, protecting the environment and for livelihood, for people's livelihood, I'm all for buying electricity from the mainland then. I'd like to have a response from the Secretary. And also, for this Area 132 is a reclaimed area, and it will also be the mid-stop for electricity transmission. Now, infrastructure will be required. Would it be funded by the government or by power companies, or a collaboration of the two? I think this is a very popular question. The third point is about electric vehicles. Now, for prospective buyers of electric vehicles, now that our fiscal position has continued to improve, the question is whether the one-for-one replacement for electric vehicles scheme will come to an end as earlier announced in the last budget to the on the 31st of March 2026, or will there be an extension, or must we wait until the delivery of the budget? The final question is about iPark. Now, Chair, I hope that we can join the Secretary on a duty visit to iPark. Secretary, right. iPark 1, that's the first phase, is now in operation as a trial. We can make arrangements for members to pay a duty visit there, but then it's still in a construction site, and we need to ensure that it will be safe for members to visit the facility. So I will go back and give it a thought about the one-for-one replacement incentive scheme. I have nothing else to supplement. I will wait for the Financial Secretary to decide on the matter. Now, on the power grid issue, as I said, we need to achieve three objectives: stability, clean, as well as zero carbon. And that's factors we need to consider. Now, you mentioned different sources of electricity supply, and that means different financing channels. And there will also be consideration on, say, the pricing of fuel from the mainland, and that means we need to have a further discussion with our mainland counterparts. It's not for me to disclose the details of the discussion here. Safe to say the following. There are three objectives: stability, cleanliness, and costs of power supply in Hong Kong will definitely be considered. Mr. Kenneth Lau. Now, the EEB covers a very wide portfolio. It covers environmental protection, climate change, nature conservation, green transport, energy, so on and so forth. I thank the Bureau for taking forward the policy initiatives over the years. I have two questions. on the future work focus. They are related to waste disposal. Now, as we know that IPAC 1 has commenced trial operation. The landfills will be closed eventually. But then, according to the Secretary, construction waste will still be disposed of by incinerators. Now, earlier, residents in Tuen Mun complained about the strong odor at the landfill, and there is also a problem with the slope works at the landfills. Right now, things have been repaired, but my question is it possible to close down the landfill and handle construction waste in another way? And after the commencement of IPAC 1 and 2, will you consider building IPAC 3? Because if the recycling economy works, there is a way to deal with, there is capacity to deal with the growing amount of waste. Say if we have 3,000 tons of daily capacity, we can build a zero waste Bay Area. Secretary. Thank you, Chair. In order to meet our goal, we should avoid using landfills as a way of waste disposal because of many environmental hygiene issues, not to mention odor problem. As for construction waste, it doesn't generate as much odor or hygiene problem. So for us, at the moment, we do not have this plan to dispose of construction waste in an alternative way. But I do ask my colleagues to look into options. That is, whether we can screen construction waste. When it comes to construction waste, there are actually two types for gravels, rocks, debris. They may be reused in the construction process, but there are also other kinds of materials such as metal, plastic, paper, wood. And if we conduct waste separation properly, we may be able to recycle some of them and just send part of them to the incinerators. So this is the way to go for construction waste, and we hope that by doing so, we'll be able to reduce the amount of waste sent to landfills. This will take a longer time. Now you ask about IPAC 1, IPAC 2, and you ask whether we will build IPAC 3. That depends on whether we can further reduce the amount of MSW generation. In the past 3 years, we reduced that amount by about 1,000. We used to generate 11,000 tons per day. Now we have reduced the amount to just 10,000. And if we could reach the target of 9,000 tons per day, we might not need to build the third facility. And we expect to meet this target. So specifically, I think the priority is to reduce waste so that we don't need the third incinerator. But of course, if need be, we can earmark a site and build the third IPAC. I need to declare that I am a village representative of Long Kwu Tan, as well as the Association of an association in New Territories. Dr. Junius Ho. Chairman, I'd like to ask the Secretary this question on paragraph 21. The scheme of installing solar panels on the rooftops of small houses in the New Territories has been very successful. Things are different since its implementation in May 2018, and now many residents have benefited from the scheme. When it comes to clean energy, the solar panels may not form a major source of clean energy. It's not mainstream, but still it's an improvement to the power supply situation. So since things are looking good, will you consider extending the scheme to cover other low-density residential areas so that solar panels can be installed at the rooftops of these low-density housing? For village houses, they now are covered by the scheme subject to certain restrictions, such as the clearance of 2.5 meters and not more than 50% coverage of the rooftop. And the CLP also provides subsidy. I understand that they have a return rate of some 30%. Will you consider extending the scheme? As I understand, the panels are only good for about 10 years. So will you consider further expanding the scheme, Secretary? Thank you, Dr. Ho, for the questions. We do want to promote the use of solar energy in Hong Kong. Hong Kong is strewn with skyscrapers. The size of rooftop is such that it will be far from sufficient in meeting our energy needs. And that is why we allow village houses to install solar panels, but that only account for about 1% of total power generation in Hong Kong. Solar panels will not form the mainstream of renewable energy supply in Hong Kong. Still, we want to adopt a new approach. As we have a lot of skyscrapers in Hong Kong, we want to see if it's possible to install solar panels on the external walls of high-rise buildings, especially many of them use glass panels. And some of them can actually include solar-powered fuel cells. And we're conducting a trial, and if the trial proves to be successful, we will launch it on a bigger scale so that we use materials that can generate power from solar energy on the external walls. In the long term, we cannot just rely on solar energy. So the shorter term goal is to import zero carbon energy from the mainland. This is our best option. For solar panel, like you said, we also plan to allow more buildings to join the scheme. Right, I still have several 10 seconds left. In order to achieve success with the power grid, we need the CLP to join. In terms of the exclusive rights, will there be room to further incentivize the CLP to buy back electricity from the solar panel power grids? We still have some time until the end of the scheme of control agreements in 2033, and we'll definitely encourage a greater use of renewable energy in our future development strategy. Next, Mr. Andrew Lam. Chairman, first on nature conservation, the government has really provided a lot of resources and made a lot of efforts. But in terms of ecotourism, there are problems arising from its popularity, such as hygiene and capacity. So my question is whether the government has come up with ways to handle these two problems, especially whether the government will leverage on technology to monitor the situation and help solve the capacity problem. The second question is this. On low carbon or zero carbon energy, I am fully on board with the government, and even if other major countries make a U-turn, I believe our government will continue to promote clean energy. My question is about carbon trading. That is, whether the government will be more proactive in promoting carbon trading as part of the zero carbon energy development. I understand the point about green finance. I'd just like to hear from the Secretary for Environment and Ecology. Thank you, Chair. On ecotourism or local tourism in the rural areas, many visitors have joined and enjoyed the beautiful scenery in Hong Kong. We do collaborate with other bureaus in promoting tourism. The AFCD, after all, is primarily responsible for rural areas. So the department is responsible for management, and we do have a role to play. For example, I required the department to draw manpower and management plans, and I also asked the department to explore the use of technology such as drones to monitor the popular locations. And if there is problem with capacity at these locations, we'll also develop new ways to tackle them. We need more time to explore different options. In the short term, we will mount public education and publicity in Hong Kong and the mainland. We'll also step up manpower in venue management to improve facilities, including signage, so on and so forth. So these are tasks for us in the short term to improve management. The next point is about carbon market. The Hong Kong MA has established a voluntary carbon trading mechanism called Core Climate. We encourage a greater use of Core Climate in Hong Kong. This will facilitate major corporations in achieving carbon emission targets. It will also incentivize people to take part in carbon trading. And there is also one important mission, that is to establish a green carbon certification system. Together with the green taxonomy, we can then allow certified carbon products to be traded on the platform. So we will encourage a greater use of this platform for carbon emission reduction. We can promote carbon trading, and we can encourage more enterprises to reduce carbon emission through this way. It's a collaborative effort.
Ms. Carmen. Thank you, Chair. Chair, I've all along paid close attention to the topic of power supply, and the EMSC earlier this year announced their review report on a power company, and some recommendations were made. I want to ask the Bureau, from the perspective of the EMSC and the EEB, what their goals are in regulation on power companies with reference to the recommendations. That's my first question. Second, the specific power company this morning had an incident again, and it is believed that there was third-party interference. The Bureau tried to find out more about this. Energy facilities are also an important part of critical infrastructure. I hope that before we have a formal report, the Bureau can give a report to the panel on the review, how it may have affected power stability, such as the operations of escalators. My third question is also power related. The Secretary said we will have a midterm review in 2028 before the expiry of the scheme of control agreements in 2033. Many members are actually concerned whether there will be a long-term strategy, or at least a medium to long-term strategy, for your regulation and negotiations with the power companies. Thank you. Secretary. Thank you. With power plants and secure and reliable power supply, the EMSC plays a role in regulation. I will ask the director to supplement my answer in due course. I pay close attention to the safe and reliable operations of power companies. And in fact, I asked the CLP to engage a consultant on their own costs, and the EMSD's engagement of a consultant to review the operations of a CLP and their management culture after the incident, so as to improve reliability of power supply and their emergency response measures. We did read that there were recommendations made what the power company should do, how to prevent accidents or incidents. We did see a decrease in the number of incidents and the power company providing faster response after an incident has occurred. I will again ask the director to supplement this part of my answer. And we talked about in 2028 for the midterm reviews. I said earlier there are 3 goals. One, we want to have safe and reliable power supply, and we are moving towards zero carbon, low carbon energy, as well as maintaining tariffs at a reasonable level. As for our policy to import zero carbon energy, we plan on, in the midterm review, think about how we can improve on these 3 aspects. I will now let the director answer the rest of the questions. Thank you. After the review report, the CLP has a work plan to implement improvement measures, and we have a dedicated team supervising the CLP in implementing recommendations. We also have some recommendations for Hong Kong Electric to improve on their operations. As for the incident this morning, our preliminary investigation is that the cable was affected by some work, so there was a sudden decrease in the voltage, but there was no suspension in power. There is actually a recommendation in the report to make good use of technology to step up inspection, and that should lower the probability of works affecting power supply. Thank you. I have a follow-up question. In general, the tariff reviews would happen in November, and because of the electrical elections last year, we did not receive a report. Will you consider giving another report to the panel this year? We actually held a press conference, and this is the usual practice that we would only hold a press conference in election year. So we do not plan on coming here to give a report to the panel in particular, as all information has been made public. Thank you. Mr. Jonathan Stewart Lamport. I would first like to declare I do business in low carbon construction materials. In the past few years, the government has specific goals for renewable energy system installation, as well as enhancing government building energy efficiency. But I think there is still some institutional restriction in the promotion of installation of solar energy systems. According to the administration, the waste to energy power pricing will be determined by fuel costs. But there is historical reason for this pricing mechanism, but then it does make things not very profitable, and it would make for a long profit cycle, which is why some departments have reservations in taking forward such facilities. So I hope that the restrictions can be removed to unleash potential for decarbonization and energy saving of public infrastructure. According to paragraph 21, we have a policy of net zero electricity generation. I hope that for the importation of zero carbon energy, we need to make sure we have audit standards for zero carbon energy. If we import zero carbon energy, if we make use of high carbon energy powered vessels to import such electricity, it would actually make things worse. So we need to make sure there is a certification and standardization regime for the importation of clean and green electricity to make sure we are not going against our policy intent. We need to really pay close attention to potential of development of zero carbon energy to make good use of microgrids, solar and wind energy. It can lessen our reliance on outside sources of power, but will also allow us to verify the authenticity of green energy. Thank you, Secretary. Mr. Lampport's points are very much valid. We need to indeed have ways to make sure energy imported is zero carbon energy indeed. We will make sure to have some stringent certification regimes, and these are already covered in our plans. You also talk about pricing for installation of solar panels in government facilities, whether we can increase the price. If you ask power companies to purchase electricity at higher prices, in fact, it is actually shared among different users. So when we encourage citizens to install solar panels, we do that. But with government facilities, we shouldn't do that because that cost will be shared by the general public. If we find suitable locations for the installation of solar panels in government facilities, we'll just have it done. And this will be done at pretty much the cost of the panels. Generally, we have to look at the circumstances. We do know that there is this microgrid strategy or microgrid technology. In future, we'll see if we can pilot such facilities. It should also increase stability of power supply if we do this. So we keep an open mind to this option. Thank you. Mr. Chan Pok-chi. Thank you, Chair. The development of Hong Kong fisheries would rely on a healthy marine ecosystem. And according to the BSAP 2035, it talks about how we have to conserve wetlands and country parks. I do appreciate this policy direction being taken, but with urbanization and intensive use of the waters, in the short term, we do not have a feasibility of MPA, especially with a 5% coverage rate at present. We face challenges in regulation and flexibility in changes. So I think we should try to make the existing MPA system more comprehensive and to make use of diversified conservation and inclusiveness approaches, make good use of scientific research, and combine that with traditional marine ecology knowledge to have a more scientific outlook of interactions between species that should promote the rehabilitation of resources and maintain sustainable development of the fisheries. So according to the BSAP 2035, we need to have an increased participation from the community and an increase in cross-sectoral collaboration. I think this is the right approach. But what can we do in particular? I have some suggestions. One, we need to allow fishermen to take part as a partner so that they can voice their concerns in biodiversity conservation. We should also have talent from fisheries research, community development, to promote sustainable fisheries. And we should also have an improvement and recycling system for fisheries tools so that we can have a sustainable community. I want to hear from Secretary what he thinks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chen, for your views. You mentioned the government's initiatives in promoting agricultural and fisheries development. Now we can have further exchanges on another occasion. But coming back to your question, in the global community, there is a new initiative that is championing 30% of the waters as MPAs. But that's for a country, not for a city like Hong Kong. So if we want to go by this international development, we need to have regard that Hong Kong is a city. Now, we have our waters of Hong Kong, but outside of that is not within our purview. There are also other issues such as waterways, navigation courses. So our focus is on nature conservation and more importantly on biodiversity, and that is why we recently updated the BSAP Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan. Which seeks to protect species and maintain biodiversity. And this is our priority in protecting the marine environment. Another point is that we need to bear in mind that when it comes to nature conservation, there are many stakeholders. Fishermen, of course, will form one major group of stakeholders in the process of ensuring sustainable development of fisheries in the fisheries industry in Hong Kong. We also need to consider ensuring water quality in the vicinity as aquaculture zones are set up. We'll continue to communicate with fishermen. Mr. Bok, thank you, Chair. I want to say some good words for the EEB, and that is we now have more days of blue sky and water quality is good. We also have more black spoonbills in Hong Kong. I'd like to refer to paragraphs 3 to 5 in your paper, and there are two questions. As I mentioned in last week's panel about the EIA ordinance and the technical memorandum, I always feel that it's very costly in Hong Kong. We need to lower the cost of production. When it comes to, for example, noise, we need to comply with the direct mitigation at source requirement. That is why we always build very costly noise barriers. Is there room to review this policy? Next, we generate about 15 million tons of public fill in Hong Kong. Is there a policy to ensure that the public fill can be used locally instead of sending it away and then buying from a third party for reclamation projects in the future? Secretary, thank you, Mr. Bok. Now, on Belt and Road, I'd like to explain to members that taking forward the Belt and Road initiative is a major task for us. Hong Kong remains an excellent platform. We pull together different professions in promoting the Belt and Road initiative. Mainland enterprises may use Hong Kong to go global. Likewise, the Belt and Road countries may also use Hong Kong as a window to the mainland. Now, you mentioned a review of the EIA ordinance. We conduct reviews regularly, in fact. In the past 2 years, if you have been following this closely, we established the Hong Kong Environmental Database. And together with the use of AI, those interested in taking forward major projects will be able to make use of the database to check whether the works can commence at a certain location. Now, you also refer to the technical memorandum. Likewise, these are regularly reviewed. We strive to find more reasonable ways to protect the environment as well as facilitating Hong Kong's development. So if you have any specific suggestions, do come forward and tell us. On fill in the public fill bank, this is actually under the purview of the Development Bureau, not the EEB. But I want to explain that in fact for construction waste in Hong Kong, 90% or over 90% of construction waste are recycled. Only about 7.6% or so would be sent to landfill. Over 90% of construction waste are recycled. Now, if they are not put to immediate use, they can be stored to something called the public fill bank, so that if need be, the waste can be taken out for, say, reclamation in the future. So we do have a plan for reusing construction waste. But Secretary, please review the direct mitigation at source arrangement, because this adds substantially to the cost of road works, because we need to build big noise barriers, several kilometers in length along the road, if there is a residential building nearby. So please review the arrangement about the source of noise. Mr. Jonathan Lau. I thank the Secretary for coming here and conducting a briefing for us. The government has really made a lot of efforts in protecting the environment and achieving carbon neutrality. I have two questions. I represent the catering industry. The first question is about energy saving initiatives. For newly renovated restaurants, we usually install air conditioning systems with the Class 1 label, or LED energy saving system to reduce energy consumption. But against the current economic environment, it's really difficult for existing restaurants to meet this requirement. Will the government consider rolling out measures to support our sector so as to help the government meet the 2050 carbon neutrality goal? Next point is about food waste. Now, our sector strongly supports recycling food waste, but then we are already short of hands. It's very difficult to deploy manpower for the purpose of preparing food waste. Now, the government has rolled out a free of charge program for the collection of CNI food waste, but the participation rate is not high enough. Will the government consider providing more support? Secretary, first, it's not just limited to restaurants. It also applies to other businesses. Now, the power companies have respective schemes to support the installation of energy saving light bulbs or other fittings. So if the business operators wish to install energy saving facilities, they can apply with the two power companies. They have the respective funds. The next point is about food waste. It's indeed quite complex to separate food waste. But in fact, it's not really tedious if we start from kitchen work. Say, just in front of the basin, you can have an extra basket or container, and then when you wash the dishes, you can immediately put the food waste in the container. It's not really complex. I think what we need is promotion and education. We also need the managerial staff to help promote the collection of food waste. We'll continue to work with the sector. We will roll out publicity and promotion. We'll also provide training to help staff equip themselves with the knowledge on food waste collection. And with a joint effort, we'll be able to collect food waste, and then this will be very useful in reducing waste in general. And there is also the Food Wise campaign. We promoted to the catering sector before, and this is one way of reducing food waste at source. Say for restaurants joining this campaign, we can provide some sort of incentive that is to offer a discount of say $1 or so, and by doing so we want to promote collaboration with the sector in reducing waste. Mr. Lam Wai-kong. Thank you, Secretary. Thank you for briefing us on your future work directions. I have 3 questions. First, the Labor Department provides guidelines on working under extreme heat, and that's according to the index prepared by the Hong Kong Observatory on extreme hot weather. According to many workers, there are situations in which it's really hot, but then no warning has been issued, and then the department also failed to issue work suspension guidelines. I want to know whether this index can be refined or the whole arrangements can be optimized so that we get a better understanding on when work will be suspended, and that's improvement on the Hong Kong heat index. The next point is about electric vehicles. I understand that a roadmap on the popularization of electric vehicles will be updated soon. And we also like to hear more from the government on respective roadmaps and timetables for commercial vehicles, light or heavy or medium commercial vehicles, and what energy source should they use, because the drivers of these commercial vehicles are mostly self-employed, and if it's the government's intention to allow them to choose between electric vehicles or hydrogen fueled cell vehicles, then it will have an impact on what they choose. I hope the government will provide a clear explanation as quickly as possible. The third point is about food waste collection. There is a pilot scheme on food waste collection, smart food waste collection bins. These bins are installed in private housing estates, and it's a 2-year pilot that will come to a close soon. And according to some housing estates, they are not going to pay extra to keep the bins there. At the end of the scheme, the bins will be removed. Now, will the government consider extending the scheme if the results are good? About the Hong Kong heat index and work suspension. Well, I think this is not really under my portfolio. I think we need to talk to the Labour and Welfare Bureau, and I'm sorry, I can't give you a specific answer today. It's not just about the data provided by the Hong Kong Observatory. It's a rather complex issue regarding the circumstances under which works should be suspended. I'm afraid I can't answer that question here. About promotion of electric vehicles and the roadmap, we are updating the roadmap. It will be announced in due course, and we'll definitely come back and consult members. Food waste collection. Yes, we'd like to take it further in the promotion of food waste collection. Apart from housing estates, restaurants, we are thinking about other places, and your views are noted. They will be incorporated in the next step.
Mr. Lothario Lam. Thank you, Chair. I would like to thank also the Bureau's representatives for coming here to give a presentation. I have 3 questions on how to promote electricity public light buses. In October last year, we only have 14 of them, according to the government's figures. That's not a lot. Apart from enhancing charging infrastructure, we really need to encourage the PLB sector to make use of electric PLBs. Can we have what we have for taxis to have a 100% dedicated loan guarantee scheme for public light buses? Like Mr. Lam Wai Kong said, for the promotion of green transport, for commercial vehicles, we have, apart from those powered by electricity and hydrogen, we also have those powered by methanol, and the technology is actually at quite a mature stage. Would you consider this option in the roadmap? Right now, with heavy fans, there aren't that many electric options. So I hope the government can consider option of vehicles powered by methanol. Third, on promoting the use of sustainable aviation fuel, SAF. The government has a goal that for the flights departing from the airport in 2030, we would have 1 to 2% of them making use of SAF. The paper also mentioned right now there is not much production of SAF, and they are quite costly at the moment. The government, do you have plans to promote the use of SAF, for example, tax concessions or other incentives? Thank you. Secretary. Thank you. Let me first answer the question on SAF. I'm sure you understand what is said in the policy address. We are promoting the setting up of operations by a Hong Kong company, which is a major supplier of SAF, to enhance its production capacity in the Greater Bay Area and in turn developing Hong Kong into a SAF hub. We are also promoting the use of SAF by the aviation industry. When we have more details, we'll give a report to the panel. As for green fuel for vehicles, or in general, we do keep an open mind to which fuel we're going to use. As long as we're moving towards carbon neutrality, we're not excluding any option. So whether it is electricity, hydrogen, or methanol, we welcome any pilots being done in Hong Kong. But we do see heavy vehicles mainly consist of the hydrogen-fueled vehicles. As for lighter vehicles, the hydrogen option is not exactly a competitive option due to its costs. As for methanol, we are trying to promote the use of methanol, but then methanol is not exactly a zero-emission fuel. So we consider this a transitional option. And we only have 20-odd years until 2050. If we have to make use of this new transitional technology in the interim, it can get quite complex. We do facilitate pilots of methanol-fueled vehicles, but in the long term, we do not have. I don't see this option being competitive enough. Sorry, Secretary, we have really tight time constraints, so we have to move on. Thank you, Dr. Simon Lee. We do see during holidays many locals or mainland and overseas visitors going to country parks, causing a waste issue as well as causing potential damage to the ecosystem, such as corals. We do see a significant demand over supply in terms of capacity in country parks. Can we have experts calculate the actual capacity for ecotourism in parks so that we can have a tiered management system. Say for peak seasons, we will have bookings made for specific time slots. Country parks are open, there are no specific entrances, but then I think with clear hiking trails we can detect the crowd numbers, so perhaps we can conduct some pilots at some higher spots and then we can extend the arrangements to other locations. That's my first question. My second point is also about power, as many other members mentioned. The secretary said that there can be negotiations made for those going on board in grids. Can we have tax concessions or policy incentives so that we will not increase user side tariffs in the end, but also encourage people to make use of low carbon alternatives? We also see some legal issues with import-export controls as well as compatibility with existing grid. Can we consider other options? In the strategy of hydrogen development, in the end, we need to encourage community participation, but then right now the private sector finds it hard to really get on board. So how can we enhance participation? Thirdly, on waste to energy, Hong Kong still has a great reliance on landfills. Can we explore an alternative, for example, incineration of waste, to make use of heat energy to power things, and then we can have a clean handling of the exhaust so as to enhance fuel mix of new energy quicker? Thank you. Secretary, you will have to be brief. For ecotourism, in the short term, we'll strengthen management. In the medium to long term, we will conduct studies on the capacity and ways to manage use of country parks. As for electricity tariffs, we make sure any price change will not affect electricity tariffs of citizens. We welcome different suggestions on what we can do. As for waste to energy, right now, with our waste to energy facilities, the operations mainly involve incineration of waste for power. So that is already what the facility is designed to do. If you have other technologies, we welcome such ideas being proposed to us. Thank you. Mr. Yu Patlang. Thank you, Chair. I very much pay close attention to the development of ecotourism in Hong Kong, and what Dr. Simon Lee said, I have been paying close attention to the situation. I hope the Bureau can tell us in future, in terms of ecotourism, whether we can have a comprehensive interdepartmental coordination mechanism so as to have comprehensive plans for the development of ecotourism. I'm hoping that under this panel, we can have a subcommittee set up to look into how we can promote ecotourism so that LegCo members can work with the departments to take advantage of the trend of promoting green tourism and how we can do better in general. I hope the Secretary can respond to this in particular. Also, with waste reduction and recycling, last July we have passed the legislative framework for producer responsibility schemes for EV batteries, plastic beverage cartons, and plastic containers. Now we are in 2026. Will you give a further report on the implementation of the schemes this year and talk about what your plans are for future consultation and implementation? Thank you. Secretary. For the producer responsibility schemes, as said in the presentation, in this year, for EV battery and plastic beverage cartons, we will give a report and perhaps our recommendations to the panel, and we will do that within this year. We do support ecotourism. If for country parks and the protected zones, because they are under the management of the AFCD, we will definitely look into what we can do better. But some of the venues mentioned are not under our management, perhaps under the management of Culture, Sports and Tourism Bureau instead. We will work with the relevant bureau on this, and if you have any suggestions, we welcome your proposals, and we will definitely convey your views to the relevant bureaus and departments. Chair, I still have some time. I would like to follow up on this. I'm very happy to hear that Merce Bay has been recognized as one of the beautiful bays, and the government is planning to include Port Shelter in the list. I think this is a good idea. In fact, we have many bays, for example, Sai Kung Hoi, that is worth including in the list. There are many bays in Hong Kong that we can showcase to the rest of the country. I wonder if the Secretary has any further plans to do that. Thank you. We do, actually. We are moving on with Port Shelter, and in fact, we are trying to look at other bays as well to be nominated as a beautiful bay. There are some standards of the country for determining that, and if Hong Kong can make contributions to the country's efforts, it would be really good. But for some estuarine bays, there are some difficulties in meeting the relevant standards, but we can generally work to have more bays included as beautiful bays. Mr. Yu, there's an agenda item at the next meeting where we'll talk about beautiful bays, so we can have in-depth discussions then. I can see that Mr. Chen Siu-hong would like to follow up on this. I will be brief. I will give you some time to ask supplementary questions. I just want to ask about how there was a PowerPoint slide about climate change. We do see more extreme weather conditions in recent years. You talked about making good use of AI. Can AI help us tackle the climate change problems? Perhaps in communication, or how citizens can mitigate the impact brought about by climate change. Secretary. There is a prevalence in the use of AI. We are also exploring some new AI applications. I think in two areas it can really be applicable: in surveillance and data collection. In particular, AI can be of use. AI can also help with predictions. As you may know, for the Drainage Services Department, they have been making use of AI and big data, and with previous data on rainfall, they can predict where there will be flooding, and they can deploy manpower accordingly. And we have seen in recent years, when there was heavy rainfall, there was less flooding as a result. We're exploring different applications. Perhaps in future we can have more AI applications used. All right, I hope that citizens can feel the impact as soon as possible. I will leave some time for Mr. Chen Siu-hong to ask supplementary questions. I thank the chairman for giving me some time to ask more questions. The administration's promotion of hydrogen vehicles, I understand there is an arrangement with the Guangdong province on a hydrogen corridor. I wonder what is happening now. And apparently the government's plan was to have consultations of a low carbon framework consultation last year and a launch in 2027. So I want to ask if they're still on schedule with this. Thank you. Well, specifically for the certification standards, we are still following our timeline. We have had smooth discussions with stakeholders so far. I will ask the Undersecretary to talk about hydrogen development.
Earlier, together with the Great Jibei Office of NDRC and Foshan City Municipal Government, we had a discussion. The next step is to sign a cooperation agreement. We'll report our progress to members in due course. As for the green hydrogen certification system in 2027, the EMSD has made some efforts, and the EMSD has also liaised with the mainland counterparts as well as local stakeholders. We'll now proceed to consultation, and having collected views from stakeholders, we will implement work on drawing up standards and formulating a certification framework. Our target is to announce the certification system in 2027. Thank you, Secretary, and your team. If there's nothing under AOB, then the meeting's adjourned. Thank you.